Welcome to Real Feels, the podcast that invites people to be public with their private persona. In a world where we are constantly redefining what it means to be a man, I'd like to take some time to find out who we are, who we aim to be, and the space in between. I'm your host, Brad Gage. Performer, artist, and one of the stars of Disney's upcoming live-action Mulan, Chen Tang is here to speak his truth. Originally born in China, Chen talks about finding his many selves through the dual life of bouncing back and forth from China to America. As an old friend of mine, I've had many nights talking about spirit, truth, and philosophy with him, and I'm so glad he took some time to be here with me right now. You said you were nervous?
Freaking nervous, man. Like, this is so weird.
Why you haven't done what you said you haven't done this before. You haven't done a podcast. You haven't talked about.
I have not done this configuration of any sort of interview.
Is this this is like the once Mulan starts going, you're going to be doing a million of these. This
You're
like,
the guinea pig.
This is really I'm
the
happy
guinea
to
pig.
be your warm up for that.
No, this is great.
Yeah,
yeah.
Chen, how do you feel in your heart today? How are you feeling today?
To be honest, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an emotion, but like I'm physically,
It works.
I'm physically
it's how
exhausted.
you're feeling. Yeah.
Like we wrapped 2 days ago, so I'm just like I've spent like a lot of time taking care of myself, just like doing nothing. Sometimes, you have to do nothing, and that's the best way you can take care of yourself,
What does doing nothing look like for you?
Just a lot of sleep and watching a lot of like, I finally caught up with Game of Thrones.
And you were sorely disappointed.
No, I thought it was all right.
Yeah.
I don't know what all the hoo-ha is about, but I thought it was all right. And then I told myself, I was like, you know what? If and I very rarely do this. I'm like the epitome of like this. I push.
Yeah.
And I go, and sometimes I don't know when to like stop and listen to my body. Like I feel it.
Well, that's what it's doing. It's saying, Chen, chill.
Yeah, and Chen, just relax, man.
Yeah.
Like, and sometimes with like physical stuff, I've gotten better. I've gotten better, but it used to be I just would not stop. I'm like a workaholic.
Where does that come from? Why? Because I have.
Can I say being Chinese?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I don't know. Like no.
I mean, I believe it because I know that's a thing. I have known you a long time.
Yeah, we've known each other a lot.
12 years.
Yeah.
You work your ass off. Where does it come from? What is the go? What is the no rest? What is that?
Wow, if you want me to be truly honest,
that's all I want.
This is what this
is what the
podcast
show's.
is
Yes.
about, Well, you have to understand, like when I wasn't born here. We immigrated here, and my family, my parents, they grew up in the Cultural Revolution in China. So like my mom, my dad, they grew up like dirt poor. I'm talking about like starving, never have enough food to eat. And, like my mom had like two outfits in the communist days, like it's kind of hard to imagine. But I think where it comes from is like that was instilled in them, like, work will set you to a greater place.
Yeah.
Like they were able to basically lift themselves out of that just by working really, really hard and just applying themselves. And like, my parents, they tested like top 0.1% of their entire province, and then at that time you needed to you had to earn your way to a scholarship. And so long story short, the fact that I'm here today, and the fact that they were able to get me here, get us here, I think that really came about from a sense of lack, and that has been instilled.
You're coming from a sense of lack.
Yeah, it was definitely like it came from that. And if you're grown up in that environment, it's very easy to have that sense of like, well, if I don't keep pushing and keep overachieving, then that is like a direct attack on my self-worth.
Yeah.
And it all comes back down to like how a sense of like, how do we get love? How do we get, so in a long-winded answer, I mean, that's
you won't be loved unless you work this hard.
Yeah, like you're not worthy unless you work that hard. You are not achieving you to your potential.
Yeah.
So.
Do you agree with that?
I'm half
because
and half.
you're a thoughtful spiritual guy.
Totally, yeah.
And so, and that is, and while like I understand that completely coming
Mm-hmm.
from that perspective, it is this new kind of thing I've discovered where it's like, well, I don't know, is that true? If that you won't be loved if you don't work this hard.
I mean, I know that now.
Yeah.
I know that now, but sometimes people, we as humans, like we go about it sometimes in the wrong way, and honestly, I believe everything comes back down to love. If you love what you do, if you love something, if you are motivated to do something, that hard work, it doesn't feel like hard work. Like you creating the show never felt like hard work. If you worked a lot at it and you put a ton of energy into it, but that doesn't equate hard work.
Yeah.
And I think that's a societal construct that we have to get out of. And that's where I'm coming from now. It used to be like, it's like everything. I was like, oh my God, like sports, working out, like, academics, like, extracurriculars, arts, even everything from like how I interacted with people. It all came from like, I needed to, I was trying really hard, in lack of a better word.
Yeah.
I was trying super hard.
And that word trying is really interesting because I'm sure there was a disconnect for a while where it's like you're trying, you're working hard, you're doing this, you're trying, and then it doesn't seem like you're trying anymore. It seems like you're just.
It sounds like I'm super lazy now.
No. It seems like you're just being and you're doing, and that's why.
Yeah.
I mean, I have seen you, when we were in college together, and then reconnected out here when you kind of moved out here, and it was like, you are like in alignment. But like you are, and you're
I'm trying to stay in alignment.
You were in the practice of being very confident and not coming from a place of scarcity. Do you feel like you feel that scarcity anymore, or is it, or has
honestly,
it been replaced with abundance?
Sometimes. In my heart, I don't, but in my mind, I do.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It does.
Like I think
that's where it happens.
Yeah, because I actually think I believe a lot in body truth. In my heart, I feel like great. I feel like, just if I really connect in and feel like where I am, like I don't feel like I lack. I actually feel very grateful. I feel like I have a lot of abundance. But to get my mind and heart into alignment, that's sometimes hard, especially being here in LA in this freaking industry, sometimes, which I love, but still feels like a bubble. People will tell you what you feel like you need to do, what is the right way to do things. Oh my gosh, like, you gotta have your social media numbers, whatever, and these things, like, to my heart, I'm like, well, that doesn't feel right, and I feel, whenever I get to that point, it usually means I'm disconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting segue because you have social media, but you thoroughly don't use it. Like you don't. You're
I'm just
saying,
ragging on my social.
No, it's good. No, this is the best. I'm not ragging on it. You are you are clearly like not using it as much as the norm. The amount that you've posted and the things that I'm just looking at your Instagram, it's just about your career, and you're using it in this way that clearly it doesn't seem like you're seeking that sort of external validation out of it.
Oh no!
How do you use it? How do you use social media? It's a good thing. This was
honestly, I'm kind of at like this crossroads with social media.
Yeah.
Me personally, like I see the value in it. I appreciate it for what it is. But it's sort of like, it really is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Me, I know myself. I get addicted super easily. And I have kind of like a one-track mind. In Chinese, we have a saying, 一心二用. It literally means like your heart, two uses. And I can't do that. I cannot split my heart like that. And what ends up happening, though, then is the part of the reason I haven't used social media a lot recently is because I'm busy, man. I'm trying to work, and it's not in the same brain space as like where my character needs to be or something, and it's also like completely. I to be honest, I just don't have a ton of passion for it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't connect with me in that way. I don't seek external validation. I mean, it feels nice, but I don't seek it.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of yuck. and it's just not me, you know. So when I tried, man, I tried, like, I think like every entertainment person is told, oh, you need to do your social media, it's good for you. I'm like, yeah,
who's telling you this?
I think like society,
just other
actors,
reps,
managers, reps, yada yada yada, right? And I'm like, it goes back to that trying thing.
Yeah,
it's like, if you're trying really hard, but you don't really, in your heart, you don't even enjoy it, it's kind of like every 2 steps you take, you'll take 1 step back. Mm-hmm. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
Or you'll take 2 steps back, you know? You might be spinning around and you're like, really, really, I don't know why that is, but it's, to me, I was like, well, you know what? I have a lot to say. I have a lot to post.
Yeah.
And blessedly, I have a ton to do, but it's not something, I think it'll grow organically when it happens, you know? Mm-hmm. And at that time, I think my heart will feel different.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. You're saying when you have a platform where people are looking to you to speak more about your truth.
Yeah, and
which I feel like will happen.
Well, hopefully. I mean, I don't know. You know, luckily and fortunately and unfortunately, the entertainment business is, with success comes exposure. Yeah. It's inherently built in. And like it or not, you're gonna feel it, and so I'm just now starting to feel that. And I think, I mean, to be honest, I don't know how I feel when I get to it. At the moment, though, part of the reason I don't use it that much is like I don't feel super connected to it in the present moment. Yeah, that's just how I feel. Yeah.
And when did you recognize that it wasn't really your thing? Like, what was it? Was it kind of an inherent thing, or after doing it for a bit, where you're like, I don't like how this is acting in my brain?
Yeah, I think it was like 2 years ago or something. Yeah. And I was like, I tried. I was like trying to make my like Instagram post like really nice. Yeah. And like, oh, I need to post every now and then. I had like a timer, like, you know, whatever, like scheduler or whatever. Yeah, I don't know, you know. And I was trying to figure it out, but then I was like, wait a minute. I gotta focus on acting. Yeah. You know, like I really gotta focus on acting
and your own life.
Yeah, man. Yeah. You know, and you know, I have a friend. She is like an Instagram influencer. Yeah, she's a social media influencer. But the difference is when I was talking to her about it, she loves it. Mm-hmm. She loves being her own boss. She loves creating content. She loves to. You know, and I'm sure she's honest. She was like, you know, sometimes I like the attention and the financial things it brings me. Yeah. But and she told me something really interesting. She's like, you know what, Chen, focus on your acting because you know you really you enjoy that, and when that happens, it'll organically grow. Mm-hmm. You know, she's like, I'm working hard, and she's like, I'm working like 12 hours a day, Chen. Yeah. Like to create content, to like, you know, and you're creating this thing. It's almost like being a producer. And
at every job. She's doing every job.
She's doing every job. Yeah, no.
And it is a job. Like I just had someone on the show who content creator and influencer. Yeah. And I was talking to her about it and she's like, I make my living on it. And it's like, you know what? Okay. But it seemed like she had a really good balance of understanding how much it's affecting her and how much it is just a job.
Did she enjoy it?
I think so. I think of course, the aim for her was still more acting. Yeah. Is there something bigger and better for her, or is this kind of like, I like this?
No, she really loves it. Yeah. I mean, she really loves it, but also I think she's going to use that as a platform to eventually become like a boss or like in the business world.
Yeah. Okay. Write some books and maybe have a business or like, you know.
Yeah. I don't know. But for now, I mean, like she really is like, oh, I enjoy being my own boss. Yeah. You know, and for me, I'm like, great. You know what you want. Be you, you know, I have no judgments about it. I'm not going to be like, oh, you know, so-and-so is like, I don't like these things. But the truth is like, be you if that's your truth. You know, I'm big about like you live your truth. Yeah. You know.
Well, I mean, beyond Chen the actor and what you do in your career and stuff, who is the you? Who are you?
Whoa, went there. Man, that's hard to answer.
It is. It's a hard one because it's.
Yeah.
I know that. But what makes you you? I guess maybe that might be a little more helpful. What are the things that you love? What are the things that you are drawn to and employ yourself with? Since you have all this time, other than I know you're working. And I'm thinking about the time you're spending not using Instagram. Is a lot more time.
Well,
what do you do with that time?
You know what in a couple words, I think simply, I love truth. I love it when people are, can express their truth. I love me expressing my truth. I love to just. I think that's actually part of why I love the arts. Mm-hmm. I love being an artist. I think that a teacher once said, I think arts is the last bastion of truth we have today. You can just actually, if you see a painting, that's they expressing something.
Yeah.
And that's their truth, and you see it with your truth. And I love that. I love people who aren't afraid to just be, truthful. I know that sounds like kind of esoteric, but
no.
That's the best way I can explain it. I love knowledge.
Yeah.
I love knowledge. I love to read. I love to just honestly sometimes. I remember when I was a kid, my mom used to make fun of me because so I came to the United States when I was a kid.
How old were you?
I was 6.
Okay.
We discovered the public library. We were like, there's a library. There's a place where you could get a little card and you can go and
it's
you
free.
can rent books for free.
Yeah.
This is insane. I don't know if that would, to me and my...
It's a beautiful place. As a kid, there's so much.
Kid, but to my mom, too, she was like, you can rent as much as you want. You could just return it and then just get more. You can rent 30 books. And I remember we took full advantage. I was all these books that I remember reading everything from dinosaurs and insects and spiders and the history of Rome or something, and I remember my mom used to make fun of me because I would take every time I go to the bathroom to go number 2, I would just take a book. And by the time I would finish one of those books, so.
I get it. No, alone time is so beautiful and important as a kid.
Yeah.
That being alone and having your own space.
Oh, and I love to explore. I think I'm an explorer at heart.
Well, you travel a lot.
I travel a lot. I've grown up moving around,
Yeah.
and loving to see new places, new, people. I was driving here to Eagle Rock, and I was like, what is this place? I just want to just soak it all up, man,
And, having been born in China, moved here, moved around a lot. What is? How do you think that gives you a different perspective than other people? What are the things that you think, you maybe see a little differently because of your upbringing? Oh,
everything. It's kind of weird being bicultural. I would consider myself genuinely bicultural. I was always going back and forth between here and China, and I can still speak it, and I can. But when I'm in China, I feel super Chinese, and when I'm in here, I feel super American. So, and it's almost like a different brain. It's 2 brains, and honestly, long story short, I think whenever I go into a new situation or something, I'm almost which way do I see it? Yeah.
Which Chen are you?
And I honestly I hate that. I hate that thing. I hate that phrase. Oh, just be yourself.
Sure.
I'm well, who are you? Right? You, Brad, in front of the president would be different than you, Brad, here.
That is such an absolutely perfect observation. I'm reading a book right now called The Untethered Soul, and he opens this book saying, Shakespeare says, to thine own self be true, but which self? Because there are so many selves, and there's the self of you at 12 years old that you still remember that, but is that the same self as you now? Is the self that you're experiencing right now, the same as you with your family in China. It's like there's so many different selves.
Yeah, but
and so it's still all you, but
see, I look at a different word in that phrase.
Yeah.
I think I'd look at be true.
yes,
I think like the self is, infinite. Like if I let's say, like, best example of, let's say if you grew up in China, you would see the world through that lens.
yeah,
That you are infinitely malleable, because we're human. And so, like, but all you can do is be truthful with where you are in the moment, and you know what that truth is. If you
Yeah.
really go down and feel it in your heart of hearts, all the time what's true for you, like now,
Do you feel like that lack of connection with the truth inside is kind of what is separating so many people right now?
Oh, it's like a cancer, man.
Yeah.
It's like a cancer. I really think that.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't even be true to that, how can you be truthful in anything?
Yeah, I feel like so many times, I mean, you can have perspective and opinions that differ, but too often people are not reaching down and going, we're not different. And how is this person feeling who I'm talking to? Because setting ego aside, like it's not about winning or being right. It's like, can we all be okay? And I think a lot more people are just worried about themselves, where they are, and their tribe, which is okay, but a tribe is different than community.
Yeah, but also on an interpersonal scale, it's like, how often does someone just be like, you know what, this is how I honestly feel.
Yeah.
Straight up, I'm going to give you my truth. And then the other person is like, they'll take that and they really feel that, and then they really give their truth back.
Right.
Like, how often does that happen? It happens all the time for kids.
Yeah. Well, it's because
Animals,
because there's so many adaptations that happen starting from a teen through adulthood, and then you're just like, oh, these are the things I am now to be. As Ram Dass, I don't know if you know him, the spiritual leader, he says being a person, you're becoming somebody. And it's like kids aren't anybody yet, and that's why they are so free to just kind of love and be and explore.
The quote that says, as up I grew, down I forgot. And
Yeah, no, we've had a discussion about this before, the idea of naming things. Whatever it is kind of losing its essence when you name it.
Yeah.
We look around this room and it's like, these are cameras and that's a rug and that's a couch and a chair.
Yeah.
But it's just like, then we're able to dismiss what it is.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, this couch is beautiful. This is a well-made couch with the blue coloring on it and the artistry of the pillows. And it's not like, it's not just a couch.
Yeah.
But I guess a part of how we function and how we're able to do so much is by just labeling things and moving on.
Well, the mind, I think, is inherent. It wants to categorize. It wants to control. That's why I think it's even more important to go deep down to feel. It's important to think, obviously, but to feel. And then, like, these two, once those two get more in alignment, you're more in alignment.
Yeah. I've been kind of using this idea like to not generalize people, because that's all we do. We lump people into certain.
There's the mind,
but the minute you do that, you generalize yourself. Because then you're like, well, I'm that too. But no, I'm not.
Yeah.
I am special. Well, everybody is.
Right.
And if you are, then you should treat other people like they are too.
Yeah.
And so, and I mean, that's part of it too. That's part of the lack of truth, the lack of connection.
Yeah, and that's also, in a way, it's not being present. Like, well, that's that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're really present, like, you'll take it in as who this person is now.
How are you feeling about where we are in the world? I mean, you're having a pretty good handle on how you use social media and how you're interacting.
Fearful is a good word right now. Apprehensive. Sometimes I get weary. I don't think human beings are so funny. Like, you can be wired in so many different ways. Be like, oh, that's just how humans are. This is human nature. Yeah, but that's the beautiful thing about it. It's like we were given this neocortex to think too.
Yeah.
You can choose, and there's a lot of untruth. I mean, I really believe a lot of problems of the world comes from untruth. People, that is what we were talking about, is like separation.
Yes. And where do you think the untruth is many times rooted?
Because people give so much power to what they think and not enough power to how they feel.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
They see with the mind instead of the heart.
Now, are you a spiritual person? Do you? Yes,
obviously.
Yes. and you meditate. How did you start and why?
I don't remember why I started. I don't remember how exactly I started. I think I heard it was good.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, like
good way. That's a good reason.
I was
to
like, okay,
start
and then
things,
of course I was like, well, I don't know how, so maybe I should read this book about meditation. And it was like literally an intro to meditation. It was like literally 15 pages.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I've read enough, and let me just try it. Let me just do it.
It doesn't need to be more than that. I think it's
it's the simplest thing in the world.
It is. There's. I'm sure there's a million books written about.
Things
that can be done, but
Yeah.
it is very simple.
I remember I started doing it on the New York City subway. That was a great place to do it. Because I was like, you get like 15, 20, 30 minutes and you just meditate. And I was like, well, I don't really know how to do it, but maybe I should take some suggestions. And I was like, okay, maybe I should listen to my breath and, really, really listen to the sounds around me, just be present. And I continued that for a while, off and on, to be honest, and I get off track. But I do, like, when I've done it for, extended amount of time, I feel very different.
And has that led to any epiphanies? Have there been things that you've, some takeaways that you've gotten from that?
I go off into some strange places.
Like where?
It's like I've seen some, like, when your subconscious mind, it's almost like on that edge of dreaming.
Yeah.
When you're in a dream, it's almost like everything's so real, and it's like fascinating. It was like how quickly you can come up with some crazy shit.
Where is that coming from? You're just like, what is this? Why am I thinking?
I don't
this?
question it.
Yeah.
I just like, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I should keep that. I've had phrases enter my mind. I've had like.
Do you write them down? What do you?
Maybe I should. I think.
Well, some people would say that those are gifts given to you so that you can remember what those are. Yeah.
I think, overall though, I feel more present.
Mm-hmm. It's just you're using it as a tool for peace and presence and centeredness.
Well, if you really think about it, what they say about meditation is everything should be meditation. Because when you really, what is nirvana except being fully present? True nirvana is actually being present in the now all the time, and then you return back to what you were. Yeah. And that's continual bliss, I've been doing this thing called Transcendental Meditation, TM, right? Yeah. And it's basically like 2 times a day for 20 minutes a day, okay? And what I love about it is it's so... like, basically your brain will do it automatically if you're doing it right? And I'm like, okay, so I don't really need to like make it about some higher spiritual thing. It's just like, how much higher is like our own body,
you've been given,
like what you're given. Like, this is amazing, and so, but what I've noticed is like, okay, after a while it just becomes like, you just do it like 2 times a day, and it's almost like if you miss it, it's like brushing your teeth. It's literally that's.
But it is, and once you start doing it, it is that important because it's peaceful. It's you're touching yourself. To put it one way,
that could be meditation.
It's a spiritual masturbation. But no, it is. It's just so funny because Because I think so many people, whatever, they reject it for whatever reason, but it's like, you're all you got. Like, might as well use it.
Yeah.
Might as well check in and be like, oh, I got all this stuff going on up here. Instead of checking out or giving my power away to a screen or even to another person. This is all for me. It's like the greatest form of self-care is just like seeing what's going on in the noodle a little bit.
Yeah.
What can you explain to me though? I've been meditating for a year now. I don't know what's the difference. What is transcendental though? What does that mean? Like, what is the difference?
Oh my God,
are you traveling more or what
no,
exactly?
it's literally, you know what? I feel bad because it's a little bit hard for me to explain.
Sure.
They have a workshop down here in LA.
No, it's so interesting. You're the second person I've asked about this, and it can't be quite explained.
You know, I guess the reason they call it transcendental meditation is because your brain gets into it. You know, because like there's different phases. There's like a waking phase of your brain. There's a sleeping phase. There's REM sleep, etc. But there's like another phase where it can get to, where it just, you know, it's like it's literally, it feels like that edge of dreaming and awake. Actually, like the practice, the theory is, if you just leave your brain alone, it'll do it by itself. It's sort of like, you know, when people say like, oh, I got to cleanse, like I got to do a cleanse. I'm like, well, you know, your body's cleansing yourself all the time. Like, leave it alone. Just let it do its thing, you know, which I love. You know?
Don't fuck with it. That's a cleanse. Don't fuck with your body, and then
don't
it'll cleanse
fuck
itself.
with it. Yeah, don't fuck with it, man. You know, like it's sort of like,
we don't even know so many people don't even know how much they're fucking with their body.
Yeah, I mean, but even if you fuck with it, your body, like, it's built to keep you alive. Yeah. It just wants to stay alive, and if you trust that,
it's built real well most of the time.
You know, but
for
like,
a lot of people. Yeah. Now, I want to talk a little bit about love.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
You're in a relationship right now. You guys are not always in the same place at one time. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with being in a long distance relationship with your heart?
It's hard. You miss them.
Yeah.
And you know, when you love someone, I think when you think about them, you're happier.
Yeah.
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 And I think, but also because like if you truly love someone, you actually try to make it work.
Yes, and you have. Love is this thing that we've talked about a lot because I think you've seen me when I didn't believe it existed.
Yeah. I've seen you in the many phases of your...
And now believe it does. I mean, how have your travels been through love? I mean, have you always known it to be what it is for you right now? Has it always been a big part of your life? Have you questioned it? Like, you know, how has love played out in your story a little bit?
To be totally honest, I didn't have a lot of love growing up. And I say that really with no meanness, you know. Of course my family loved me. Of course my parents loved me. But I think as a child, I didn't feel it. I'm just being very honest.
Sure.
You know, I didn't feel it because it was, you know, they did their best. You know, sometimes the things that you didn't say because you weren't taught to say them.
Absolutely.
You know, and sometimes they're not there because they're busy, man. They're trying to put food on the table, you know. But that's love too.
Yeah. Of
course, as like a kid, you're like, I don't feel it.
Mm-hmm. Was it more of an affection thing?
Or also, you know, like I didn't, you know, like I wish they were there more. You know, the one person, because my grandma raised me, of course, like that's. I can feel that, and it's pure love. You know, it's different now, but you know, after that early childhood stage, it was like, oh, you know, I didn't get any real connection for extended times, except for, you know, my grandma. You know, and that was like, and growing up, you know, so that has always been a rock, like a clogged up things, like an armor that
like the it's clogged up how like it
like to be honest, like, you know, up until probably recently I didn't even feel like, oh, I thought I was in love, or I thought I could, I had an idea of love, but I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can really know what that means until you open yourself up totally to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that's really what unconditional is, isn't it? You know, it's like you can't say like, I love them, but I love them, and you know, it's just.
Anytime you hear that from a friend, you go, well,
you guess
this
you
is
really
in
don't.
trouble.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is in trouble,
Yeah.
right? And I think the more I opened up to being vulnerable, the more I could be feeling love.
What is love to you now? What does it mean?
You know, it sounds a little like scientific, but to be honest, sometimes like I feel like love actually is just a series of neurotransmitters in your brain that makes you feel a certain way. Mm-hmm. It's very magical, though. Mm-hmm. You know, that is more magical than anything. To feel that deeply about someone, you know, and
You don't think it goes deeper than that? Or you think it's
how much more deep can you get?
To a realm that we can't understand?
You know, it's
To your spirit, to the you that's behind everything.
of course, yeah, of course, but you know, it manifests itself in that way here,
Yeah.
on this plane, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the thing that connects everything, everyone, you know, and to be honest, I don't know, I really don't know, because I haven't fully, I guess, like it's something you can't really just define.
Sure. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But you believe that it is a unifying force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's think about that. I mean, you know, we're getting super deep here, so sometimes I have to like really think about that.
Well, good. I'm glad I'm making you
Yeah.
think about it. It's. I mean, for me, there's a reason why pretty much every story is about it. What everybody needs, what everyone's fear is rooted in, what everyone's work ethic is rooted in. It's the greatest common denominator. It's lowest. I mean, in a way, like lowest common denominator. It's like it's the thing that fills in everything else.
Yeah.
And so, part of why I wanted to do this show was to reassure people like I was, where it's like, I know you've heard it before, and I was very cynical about it, but you just got to wait and keep your eyes peeled and keep your heart open and keep being vulnerable and practicing that. And that's a tough thing to do. I mean, what do you think you were not a very vulnerable person for a large chunk of your life?
Definitely.
Like how?
Definitely.
When were you able to tap into that? Was it through acting? Was it through a
I
person?
think if it wasn't for the arts and acting, I really would have a hard time tapping into that.
Yeah.
You know?
What's the most important thing in your life, Chen?
Right off the bat, right now, my work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
I think it just gives me my identity.
Yeah.
You know, way I move through life. You know, the lens that I see through life. You know, for this present moment, you know, there's really not much else. You know, no, that's just the truth.
But is that? I mean, that's a beautiful thing. That's a good thing that there's nothing else.
And
hopefully,
truth. You know, truth.
Yeah.
Just trying to be true to myself. Trying to be true with where I am right now. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're doing a very good job.
Well, I mean, try to. You know. I mean, you know. Yeah.
How does your heart feel right now?
A little worried, you know. I was like,
worried?
Maybe like, I was like, you know. I mean, you know, I'm like, because I've never done one of these things before. I'm like, well, I don't know if like, am I being interesting? Am I, you know, yada yada. I'm just. That's literally how I feel. You know, like I'm pretty.
I can assure you that you are absolutely interesting.
I guess you know, I'm like, oh well, maybe like.
This is a different experience than most other podcasts because I think most other podcasts are about doing bits and keeping it, and like this is what I've got going on, and the stories we're telling about ourselves. This show is about. I don't want to hear the story you're telling about yourself. I want to know what's behind that and what's deeper down.
Yeah.
And not worry about putting on any of that stuff that you put on out there.
Yeah.
Being purely vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, no, I mean, that's a reasonable worry, but also, I can assure you that. That's
I mean, like, sometimes I'm like, well, I'm like, is this enough? Or, you know, like, and
you're always enough, Chen.
Yeah. That's the truth.
That's a big one. All right. Well, thank you, Chen.
Thank you.